Introducing our next speaker. His name is Moses Schrock. Moses comes from an Amish background. The Lord reached him in the most miraculous way, and if you look on YouTube under Moses Schrock, you will find his testimony. It is a powerful testimony. Well, as you can imagine, being Amish, Moses has lived most of his life without all the modern conveniences that we're so used to, the electricity, the gasoline-run cars, and all these things. So we're going to hear from him now, and he's going to share what do we do when, say, the power grid goes down? Are we really prepared? So I'm going to turn the time over to you, Moses.
Be green? Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. I was on mute, I guess. Cover this up a little. Well, I want to start with a word of prayer before I present before you, so can you bow your heads with me? Father in heaven, we do not want to even talk about these things without you being in the midst of it all, that we can understand what we're talking about. And Father, sometimes I get excited, I go too fast. Help me to be slow and that people can understand what I say. Bless my lips and bless all those that are here, that we can gain wonderful information, because it's you that are the one that's going to sustain us through these times, as has been said many times this morning already. We can do all the preparing we want, but it is you that will still be the one that directs our paths and ways in the right place. And we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, my topic is what to do when the power grid goes down. I lived without power. I lived without power until about 2008. It's when I first put in a little bitty had a little solar panel, some couple of small batteries and 12-volt batteries, and did mostly for my wife to use her blender. And I loved that lifestyle. I was happy with that lifestyle. And but that's a long story. If you want to know why we don't live that lifestyle no more, like she said, you can find me on YouTube under Moses Schrock Testimony. There I share my testimony why I no longer live that lifestyle. We did for a long time after we even made a transition. But brothers and sisters, I've been sharing Zoom meetings. I've been speaking in places ever since Gwen Shorter put me on the stand last fall. I just want you to know I am still not comfortable going everywhere and sharing everywhere. So I need your prayers. But as I have been sharing with our people, I know that our people are so far from ready. I'm going to ask you one simple question. I know it won't happen tomorrow, but if the power grid went down tomorrow, you all know what happens when the power grid goes down. We have become so modernized in America. You will not get gasoline. The stores can't order food. America will come to a screeching halt. When that power grid goes down, we don't know how long it's going to be down. If it goes down, like I say, it's not going to be tomorrow, but I just want you to think in your minds. You go home tonight, you go to bed, tomorrow morning you wake up, and there's no power. Just think about it. I want you to really think about it. Some of you have had power outages, but you never thought that it would last for a long time. You always figured it's going to be back soon, which it has been. Do you have, this is a question I'm going to ask you, do you have water? Do you have food enough to last until you can harvest from your seeds that you're going to be planting this spring? Do you? If it went down tomorrow? I don't think so. Some people do. There's a few people that do. Our lifestyle, we depended on our gardens. We would can. We would put away food. It lasted from season to season. Yes, we did go to the store for a few things. Salt is something that I don't know where or how you could make in this area. So salt was one thing that we would always buy. We always bought flour to bake bread and stuff. I don't know why, because we could have ground our own wheat and done it that way, but we didn't. Those are some of the things that we bought in the stores. But I'm going to go through here, and then as we come down, we're going to talk about it. It's not if, but when everything comes to a halt as we're used to, what then? What's going to happen then? I'm going to look at Ezekiel here. The sword is without, and the pestilence and the famine within. He that is in the field shall die with a sword. He that is in the city, famine and pestilence shall devour him. But they that escape of them shall escape, and they shall be on the mountain like doves of the valley. But then he also says, all of them mourning, every one for his iniquity. Brothers and sisters, if we go into this with a mindset that we're going to survive, we're going in it with the wrong mindset. But if we're going into this with a mindset that God has asked us to prepare, be ready, a mindset that we're looking at the iniquities that we may have still in our lives, the sins that are still prevalent in our lives, we may be like the doves of the valleys. We may be able to escape. And it's going to be, what good would it do us to have everything prepared, so ready that we could live through a long period of time on this earth if we were not ready to go to heaven? We need to be ready to go to heaven first. Our life needs to be in order to go to heaven. So then, this is the important part. This is what I believe is why God wants us, His people, to be able to sustain and live. Because our neighbors are not ready. Our neighbors have not prepared. What a better way to be a witness for Jesus Christ. Hey, I got some bread. I know you're hungry. Come on over. We'll feed you. What a better way to be a witness for Jesus. Isn't that what Jesus did when He walked on this earth? He gave them bread. He gave them fishes. He multiplied it. We can look at Elijah and the widow of Zarephath. We are not to hoard. We are counseled not to hoard. But do you know what hoarding means? I don't think hardly, unless you have looked up the definition for hoarding, I don't think very many people understand what hoarding, the definition of hoarding is. When you hoard, you are putting up food for yourself and yourself alone. Those people out there had the same privilege that I had. Let them die. That is principle of hoarding. We can hoard the gospel. I can be studying and being... If you do a search on hoarding with a CD-ROM, you will find it never once describes much for food. It mostly describes that when we know the truth and don't share it with others, we're hoarding. That's going to be the same thing when you have the means that you could help your neighbor and don't. Now you're a hoarder. God does not approve of that. God never hoards His truth. He is more willing to give us His truth than we're to receive it. Shouldn't we be the same way? With our means. It's not our means. It's what God gave us. It's not our means. And another thing I want you to look at, I should have my Bible here, but I don't. We use, when we talk about tithe and offerings, this just really hit me recently. We go to Malachi, it says basically the same thing, but Proverbs is more explicit about it. It says, when you give back to God what belongs to God, your barns will not be able to hold all the means. Now, what is that telling us? That means that we're going to be storing food, right? Have you ever looked at it that way? I hadn't until just recently. It popped into it just hit me like, whoa. Our barns are to be full with plenty. Malachi says basically the same. So if we give to God what belongs to him, we will have an abundance of food. That's if we desire to have it. It also says in Proverbs, go to the ant, thou sluggard. What does the ant do? They work. Have you ever seen an ant gone on vacation? They sleep during the winter. But I mean when there's time where you could prepare. Have you ever seen an ant laying on the side of the anthill sunning herself? No, you haven't. Or if you have, you're different than me. I believe God wants us as his people. Now, again, there is a limit how much food you put up. I want you to understand that. But as growing up Amish, the average Amish family had probably 2 years' worth of food. It was just our lifestyle. We were not even preparing for evil times. It was a lifestyle. And you go back and look at our pioneers. They had the same lifestyle. Sister White writes about how many they canned and stuff. You go back and look when she's using these terms, not to hoard, and that our food is going to be taken away if we put up a great abundance of food. You find that at the same time they were canning large amounts of food, putting it away. So that's where we can get confused. I believe there are two different scenarios. Right now we're facing a time of trouble, but later we will probably be driven from our homes, taken into the mountains. That is when God is going to sustain us and take care of us. But there's two different, if you take close study, there are two different times that are being talked about. One, there is tremendous trouble coming on this earth. Two, God's people, in Revelation 12:17 talks about it, says they're going to make war with a woman, with the remnant of the woman's seed. It's those who are faithful to God. The enemy is going to try to take them out. When that finally comes, that let's kill all those people, let's go out and kill them. That's when we'll then be fleeing the mountains and God will give us bread. Up to that point, I believe we're to take care of ourselves as much as we can with the help of God. Here's one quote I want to read. The time is fast coming when the controlling power of the labor unions will be very oppressive. Have you been seeing that recently a little bit? Labor unions have been becoming oppressive. Again and again, the Lord has instructed our people that our people are to take their families away from the cities into the countries. Why would that be necessary? Where they can raise their own provisions. Who is doing that? Praise the Lord. I'm glad for everybody that's doing that. Why should we be raising our own provisions? Why not just go to the store? It's so much easier. I mean, you put so much labor and effort in putting this in fruit jars. I mean, if you look at your time, you cannot even afford to do it. You could be working, making money that time while you're preparing all this food to be putting in jars or drying it or whatever you're doing. You could buy food, keep working, and make more money that way. Let's continue on. For in the future, the problem of buying and selling will be a very serious one. When this power goes off, you think it's going to be a serious one of buying and selling? Yes, it will be. Very serious. We should now begin to heed the instruction given us over and over and again. Get out of the cities into rural districts where the houses are not crowded closely together, where you will be free from the interference of enemies. Now, I want you to imagine, my estimation is that almost every one of you live in the country. There may be a few here that are not, but a large percentage of you are all living in the country, I believe. I hope. Now, I want you to understand one thing. Think about it. You're living in the city, and maybe you're living in an apartment house. There's story after story. What's going to happen when you don't have food? Or you have food up top, or you have food in the bottom, and the rest of the apartment housing doesn't have any food. What's going to happen? People are going to come try to get your food. they haven't, our speakers haven't spoken much about it, but they have plans in place when this goes down to lock the people into the cities. I believe you all know that. They're going to put these barricades over the roads. They're going to try to control the population of the cities because they can't control us out here. They know it. But everything they keep inside the city, they can keep. They might let us kill ourselves in there, but at least they can control that area. But they can't control us out here. They have not even close enough personnel to come to all of our homes and take and do whatever they want to do. We've been counseled to get out of the cities, and I believe that is very important. I'm going to read one more. It says, the trade unions and the confederacies of the world are a snare. Keep out of them and away from them, brethren. Have nothing to do with them. Because of these unions and confederacies, it will soon be very difficult for our institutions to carry on their work in the cities. My warning is keep out of the city. Build no sanitariums in the city. Educate our people to get out of the cities into the country where they can obtain a small piece of land and make a home for themselves and their children. It talks about the restaurants, but I'm going to go down where it's underlined. But ere long, there will be such strife and confusion in the cities that those who wish to leave them will not be able. This is the light that is given me. So what is the most important part? I just threw things down. There's way more things than that. But tomorrow the power goes out. What should you have had in your homes? You've got to have some source of water. Water is so vital important. I believe water is one of the most important things that you need to be considering about. If you don't have water, you won't live long. Then, of course, you want food. But even think about it right now. The power went out tomorrow morning when you wake up. What source of heat do you have? Are you dependent on the grid to keep your home warm? Do you have, some people say, well, I got a pellet stove. Is that pellet stove going to work without electricity? Unless you have a gravity feed one. Let's continue on. How will you stay warm and how will you cook your food? A lot of your food you might be able to eat without cooking, but that would get kind of tiring too. Some may say, well, then I will go get a stove. Where are you going to find a stove when that happens? Have you thought about it? Where are you going to find a stove when it goes down? You won't find a stove. Everybody else thinks the same. There won't be a stove available. Do you have wood? Some of you might have a stove. It might be out in the garage, but do you have wood? Even most important than that, you've got to have a chimney. If your home doesn't have a chimney, that wood stove is not going to do you any good because you will not find a chimney after this goes down. It's not going to be available. So you need to think about these things. We have all that because that's the way we grew up. It was our life. So the grid is down. You may have a wood stove sitting in the garage, but you still haven't installed that chimney in your home. What are you going to do? How are you going to stay warm? How are you going to cook your food? You might say, well, I got a propane stove. How much propane do you have on hand? Enough to last a week? You won't get propane when it goes down. Or we have a stove very similar to that. It's a Kitchen Queen. This is not a Kitchen Queen, but we have a stove very similar to that. And but my question is, how does it work? Do you know how it works? Do you even know how to use it if you have one of those? Some do. Some don't. Do you know how to get that stove heated up? I mean, there's a fairly large variety of wood stoves out there. But did you know, right now, you heard me talking and you decide you're going to get a stove quickly? Do you know how long you're going to wait? They are over a year out. Yes, they are over a year out. You will not get these stoves unless you find a used one. I have checked into it. This is probably the baker's choice, I think. But this is a combination, as you see. It's got a very large box, firebox. You probably remember the pictures of the old kitchen stoves where they had this tiny little box about this bit wide, about this deep, and about this long. You had to split your wood really tiny. Those were the old cook stoves. Now this is a combination heating and cooking stove both. On your right there is a door that opens up. There's an oven in there. That whole top gets very hot, and you've got a large firebox, yay by yay. That's what we have. We love it. We've had it for a very long time. No, you will not find a stove like that. They are on back order. Some of the problem is they can't get the metals to make them. These stoves are made by the Amish people. They're having issues getting the metals to make them. That stove there is probably about 400 pounds. They're very heavy, but they're very, very, very well built. They will last for a very long time if you maintain them. But now, how many of you know how to start a fire? A lot of you do. Well, there you go. But you got to get that first fire started. Just turn the knob. Just turn that knob and it'll come on, right? No, it will not. It does not work that way. You know, I know of somebody. Personally know of somebody that they just had a regular heating stove. It was not a cook stove. They just had a regular heating stove, but it has the same firebox. They tried to start a fire and couldn't get it started. Brothers and sisters, I just want you to know, it is not as easy as you think to start a fire in those stoves. Once you got it going, keep coals in there, hot coals, just pile more wood on. It works great. This individual sent to me, let me know that they can't get their stove started. So I went to the individual's house. I just want you to know, it's not funny. Because if you don't know, you don't know. I know this individual knows how today. And probably laughs about it today. I came over. They had burned up all the cardboard and paper they had. In that stove, they had one round of wood. They were trying to light this one round of wood. Brothers and sisters, it may sound funny to you, but there are so many people that don't know. It is not funny. So I told the individual, hey, do you have some little small pieces of wood? So, of course, yeah. We got some little wood, and it's made a little teepee kind of thing. And put another couple pieces of wood in. One log does not burn. You need 2 or 3 to let it burn through. You know, we got that fire going, and since then that individual knows how to start fire. So guys, it is not as easy as you think it is. You may have the wood stove, but if you have never lit it, don't know how. It's time that you go out and practice before it's an emergency. And then, now, how do you cook on this stove? Directly above the fire is the hottest of the stove. See, this is a hunk of metal that once the fire gets into it and goes, this hunk of metal takes, it's not like turning the knob and you have instant heat. It doesn't work that way. You start the fire. As the fire goes up and starts getting warm, the top gets, finally you can't stand your hand on it. You're looking at 15, 20 minutes for that top to get hot enough to boil water. Well, it depends what you put in. If you put a tire in it, but don't do that. You might get a hot stove fairly quick. But it takes time for this hunk of metal to warm up. It's not like turning the knob and you got instant fire. It just doesn't work that way. It's a learning curve. And I just helped a brother and sister just a couple of weeks ago to get their stove finally lit. And they're excited about it and they're happy. They're sitting there in the audience here. They got a wood stove. And it's a learning curve. They had no idea how much wood it takes to keep that stove running. He says, wow, my wood is going. I didn't know I need that much wood. But praise the Lord, people are coming around and doing it. I'm happy to see everybody that is doing it, getting these things in place, because, brothers and sisters, the time is coming. If you don't do it now, it's going to be extremely hard to do it. Do it while you can do it. Get these things implemented. Put them in your plate. Put them in your houses. Get them set up. Practice. Get to use them. You don't have to use them all the time, but just get to know how. Then, what if your kettle is now all of a sudden boiling? What do? But you need to boil the beans for another 20 minutes or so, or whatever you're doing. So how do you keep them from running out of the top? Huh? They have grates that you can put under it. But to your far right, that you could burn your hand on right above the fire, but to your far right, it's way cooler. It might not even boil there. So you move your pot according to where the heat is. Again, the oven. It's not like turning that gas knob or the electric knob and within 15 minutes that oven is going to be hot. Yes, if your stove is on in the winter, you're using it, it's hot already, you just close the door and you're pretty much ready to go. But say it's warmer weather and you're not using that stove, you got to start a fire, you want to make breakfast. You're looking at it 20 to 30 minutes. Say you want to bake something in that oven. You want to bake biscuits, just for an example. You want to get that oven hot enough to bake biscuits. You start your fire. By the time that oven is finally hot enough to bake biscuits, it could be anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to get that oven hot enough to bake biscuits. From a cold stove to hot enough. It is a whole different pattern, a whole different lifestyle. You don't just turn that knob off, walk away, and it goes beep when it's hot. There's a gauge on there that you watch to see when the needle gets to the desired temperature. And it doesn't make a sound. It can go over that desired temperature. Then what do? Well, down at the bottom, you see that little shiny thing with those 3 little black dots in it? That's a vent. When it gets almost to the heated desired temperature, you turn that vent down to slow the draft down, which feeds the fire. But you got to watch it. Oh, I turned it too far down, the oven starts cooling off again. It is not like a set temperature. You got to learn how to work with it. All these things are just, the Amish ladies know all about it. It's like fixing a bed. To them, no different. They grew up with that. This is just a regular heating stove. You can cook on these stoves. If you can't find, you can still find these stoves. These are fairly readily available. You can just go out and you can go on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. You find all kinds of stoves. Don't get a cheap tinny one. Get a heavy duty stove. These cheap tinny ones don't last. This is a very heavy stove here. You can see the thickness of the metal on top is at least 1/4 inch thick. This would be a good stove to have. You can cook on it. If you have a Dutch oven, you can bake with a Dutch oven too. But it does not have an oven in to bake with. So your power is out. You have no option. What are you going to do? I mean, you got to resort to something. Or maybe you could build a fire out in the yard and cook camp-style fire. I mean, that would get kind of old after a while too. But at the same time, your house is going to get cold. If it's like tomorrow morning, it's going to be pretty cold out here. Do you have a chimney in your house? Do you know how to install the chimney if you don't? I'm sure there's people here that do, and I know there's people here that do it. I've installed quite a number of chimneys over the years for people. I just helped finish installing one to my brother's house the other day, a couple of weeks ago. This is, of course, the chimney. Now, here's a tutorial done by, I'm sure that some of you know them. It was David and Chana's Berman. That HTTPS, woodstuff.youtube.com. If you look that, they used to live up by Kettle Falls, between Kettle and Colville, up Onion Creek, way up there. Personally knew them, been in their home a number of times. They put this together. This will show you how to start the fire, how to take the ashes out, how to keep the stove top nice and shiny. It's probably a 45-minute tutorial. Now, one thing that I sometimes forget, I cannot forget, this is almost life or death Did you know when you pull those, you have to pull the ashes out every so often because it builds up. If you want to take pictures of that, go ahead. You can go and watch that. Never, ever, ever, ever put ashes in a cardboard box. Put it in a metal bucket. Always. There may be hot embers in there. I know of 2 Amish homes that burnt down because of this. They put it in a metal bucket. They set it on the wooden porch on the outside. A wind came along. They had no clue that there was even hot embers in there, or they didn't think about it if they did. And the wind fanned it, caused it to get some draft. It caused enough heat to create the wood underneath to catch fire and burn the home down. Never, ever put your wood ashes in a cardboard box. Put it in a metal bucket. Right now is a good time. Just take it out and dump it in the snow. Let it cool off. Or set it in the stove. Also, I don't know if you know or not, but wood ashes is some of the best traction you will ever find on ice if you're stuck. So sprinkle some around the tires. Put it on top of the tires. You'll just drive right out. On ice. Now, if you're stuck in a rut in the snow, yeah, you probably won't get out. So now tomorrow morning the power went off. You got a fridge full of food. What are you going to do to keep it from spoiling? I mean, there's enough food in there to last you a month. There's a lot of good answers here. You can put it in the snow. It'll keep, or have a room that's a cold room outside. It'll keep well. But what if it starts getting warm and your power is off and you still got a bunch of food? What are you going to do now? One of the better ways is to either dry it or can it. Dry it or can it. Your fridge is full of nice food. You're just going to let it spoil because you won't be able to buy any more at the store. What are you going to do about it? This is what I tell people. You have your wood stove. Even if you have this stove. Now, if you have the other stove, you can actually put in the oven, put on cookie sheets, open the door, leave it wide open overnight. It's warm enough in that oven. If you put it in cookie sheets, slice it thin, overnight it'll dry. It'll dry very much. But if you have this stove, most of your homes have screens on them, don't they? If you don't have anything else but a screen, window screen, pound some nails in the ceiling, bring strings down, and hang that screen flat, maybe about a foot above that stove. If it's a plastic nylon screen, you might want to go a little higher because the heat might melt it. That heat is rising from that stove. It causes a draft. So the heat is rising from the stove. It'll automatically go through that fruit or vegetables, whatever you're drying. Make sure they're dry. Put them in jars or plastic bags or whatever you have. Some might say, well, I'm going to start up the generator to keep my food from thawing. Well, the thing is, how are you going to get gas? You might have enough gas to run it a week. What's going to happen when that goes? You might prolong your time a little bit. And at the bottom there, this is what I tell people. When you go to the store, don't buy a little 32-ounce bag of rice or beans. We, as Amish, bought bulk. Everything we bought was bulk. We would go buy, what we still do, the 25-pound bags of rice, if we can find them. Just the difference in price. A 20-pound bag of brown rice, I just did that about a month ago. It was like $21.64. Take the 32-ounce brown rice, the same rice was $4.64. Well, that's way cheaper than the $21. But it takes 10 bags to make the same amount, which calculates out to $46. You spend 2 times as much money if you buy in small quantities. Buy big, Put it away. Beans, if you can find them, put it in food-grade buckets. If not, you can find Mylar bags. Put it in Mylar bags. Put the lid on, snap it down. Those beans will keep for years if you have to. Another thing, if you buy beans, rotate stock. Use your oldest first and keep rotating stock. Rice is a little bit more touchy. Rice will not keep as long as beans do. Now, another thing that you can do, I don't have them with me, but you know what these little tea candles are, right? Little flat tea candles. Keep your rice bucket down about this low with rice. Light a tea candle, put it in there, and snap that lid on. Hope they need to have rubber seals. What that tea candle does, it'll burn. If it's too tight up, it'll make a hole in your lid before it goes out. So you need to have a little head space. That tea candle will burn until there is no oxygen left. Your food will last double the length without getting stale. It is the oxygen that creates your food to get stale, causes your food to get stale. It burns all the oxygen out, and that candle will go out very shortly. Less than 5 minutes, the candle's out. No oxygen left. Next time you open the bucket, get out some rice. I would recommend getting enough out to last a week or so. Light that candle, seal it down again. Your rice will last so much longer. Now, beans, some of those things you don't have to worry about because they keep. They just keep. Wheat, you don't have to worry about that. It keeps. You have some of that at your home? Good. I'm glad for everybody that does. We probably got 1,000+ quarts in our home. Average family of about 13, a family of a dozen, so that we had large families. We had anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 quarts of cans. Depending what time of the year you're talking. Springtime, by about harvesting time, our quantity was low, but over the summer we'd start canning, and replenishing again. By fall, 2,000 quarts, easy. How long will your food last in cans? How many? I was going to bring some canned food along, and I simply forgot it. Fruit lasts longer than vegetables. We have fruit that we canned, cherries that we canned the first year we moved here. We moved here in 98. It is still good to this day. They do slightly lose, especially if they're in an area where there's daylight coming to them. Especially the colored fruits will dull a little bit. We opened up a jar, just one of the demonstrations that I did here a while back. You can taste anything different than a freshly canned. It had just slightly discolored. Now, the key thing is to have them in a dry environment, because those lids, if you're in a wet environment or damp environment, they can start deoxidizing on the outside and eventually rusting through. And as soon as that happens, it's over. You lost it. But in a dry environment, there is really a very long time that food will keep. Very long time. Even vegetables. We used to can our meat and everything. Now, someday, I know there are people in here that know how to can. I don't think we got time to go through that. I'm just going to give you a little bit of heads up, or tell you. I would need a canner and stuff here. My wife does everything water bath. Cans everything water bath. She does not like pressure cookers. She hates pressure cookers. Fruits, in our area here with the elevation where we're at, you should do it about 35 minutes. Boiling. Once it hits boiling point, boil for about 35 minutes. Fruit will keep from there on. If you got to buy the lids and everything. I mean, you need to have somebody doing a demonstration on that, because you really need to see hands-on. Can't do it justice by just telling you. Vegetables, you got to can for 3 hours. It got to boil for 3 hours. Unless you have a pressure cooker, you can cut that way down. My wife has a large. There's a company that sells these, and that is what's the name of the company? I don't have it on my slides. It's an Amish company that makes them. the name of it? Layman sells them. They are this long, about this wide. They hold 15 quarts. Now, my wife, she has this stove. She puts two of those side by side on the stove, 15 and 15 is 30 quarts. You can can a lot of food in a very short time with 30 quarts. Now, average pressure cooker will hold 7 quarts. I think it is 7 quarts. How many pressure cookers full do you have to do that much? A lot. So my wife says, I don't want a pressure cooker. Just give me my 2 canners. We'll put it on the stove. I'll get that canning done for 3, even if it takes 3 hours of boiling. So those are things that, again, as I've said, are you ready for that? Do you know what you're doing? And of course, this here is easier if you don't have the chars. If you don't have the chars, you just don't have the chars. You can dry almost anything. You can even dry like lettuce. You will not get fresh lettuce from dried lettuce, but it has basically the same nutrition. You can dry it. And you can put some water on it. It'll partially dehydrate, but it will not be like it was originally. But you at least can eat it. Okay, I had done a 3-part series. This is part 2. I done a 3-part series. I cut some of this out, some of the first part out here. Okay, I had done a 3-part series in from out of Georgia. They had me do a 3-part series. So here I'm ready for part 2, and I spent a lot more time, and here again, it's the same one that I had, same quote. If the poor now crowded in the cities could find homes upon the land, they might not only learn a livelihood, but find health and happiness now unknown to them. Do you realize that's health and happiness in the country that you don't know about if you live in the city? But what does it say next? Hard work. I've never lived in the city, but I know people that have lived in the cities that have come out, and we've been instrumental in helping them. They no longer have time for all these pleasurable things that they used to do. They don't even have time to watch TV in the evening, which is a good thing. Once you are in the country, and you're trying to raise a garden and things, by the time you come home, you may have a job in the city, but by the time you drive home, you got to take care of your garden, water your trees, and all this and that. You're so ready for bed that you just forget about all that stuff. You go to bed and you sleep. Next morning you wake up. Start all over again. Anyway, hard work, simple fare. How would you like to have that, a simple fare? You're just not going to make the money you used to. Then, are you ready for close economy? You got to watch your pennies, and don't watch your $100 now. You watch your pennies and dimes now. You ready for close economy? Often hardship and privation would be their lot. But what then? But what a blessing would be theirs in leaving the city with its elements to evil, its turmoil and crime, misery and foulness, for the country's quiet and peace and purity. You cannot replace that with city life. There is no way. I've never lived in the city. Yes, we do cooking for camp meetings thing. There is times that we end up in those areas for a couple of days. You know what? I'm so happy to go home. I would not want to stay there at all. I don't like it there. We enjoy cooking for the camp meetings, but as soon as we can get home, we're happy. The time is near when the large cities will be visited by judgments of God. Did we hear about nuclear this morning? Why are the judgments of God going to come up on the cities? There is so much evil. We have, as a nation, turned our back on God for the most part. When you can call or can condone and say it is good to marry a man, a woman, a woman, God had to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah for that very reason. That was the city. All the cities of the plains were destroyed. Was Abraham okay? Abraham was in the country, wasn't he? Okay, well, I got to hurry up. I didn't realize we were running that tight. Anyway, the ungodly cities of our world are to be swept away by the besom of destruction. In the calamities that are now beginning to be falling immense buildings and large portions of God's cities. I'm going to skip to the next one. Have you ever seen this one? The time is near when large cities will be swept away. Now that sounds like nuclear to me. And all should be warned of these coming judgments. Oh, that God's people had the sense of impending destruction of how many? Thousands of cities now almost given to idolatry. Brothers and sisters, I believe that is very close. I believe it's very close. What about the flushing toilet? What about the well? You have a well on your property, but the water's down there, and the hole is this big. It's down there about 100 feet. How are you going to get that water out of there? I got to go fast. You can. This is a simple pump that is made to go alongside that little pump there on the right. It's called simple pump. That is made to go alongside your existing. It's only a 2-inch pipe. You can drop it right alongside down beside your existing submersible pump, and you can pump water. But you know what? Those things are almost impossible to get to. I have ordered one back in early part of November. I still don't have it. Well, it depends how strong you are. We have installed one for a lady that we just had to pull it last week. Her water table, her well is 300 feet. I think the water table is like 240 feet till the water. I mean, you work a little to pump. You get your exercise. Like he was talking about, get our... Now, this is something that is more readily available as of yet, I believe. I think you can still get those pretty much right away. It is a solar-powered pump where you drop down. You have the solar panels out there. What you need is a storage tank. I would recommend if you could cover it with something because it creates allergy in the hot summer when the sun hits it. But you don't want algae to growing. It'll go slimy green. Never get a white tank and put it in the sun. Within 2 or 3 days, it's going to start get green on the inside. Now, black, not so quick, but they don't consider black a food-grade quality. There's brown that I think it is. This is what I would recommend if you can get it, or the hand pump. Now, this system here is probably about $6,000 to $7,000. I haven't just checked recently, but they'll be put a little 12-volt pump down the bottom, submersible pump, with a pipe up. As soon as the sun hits those solar panels, full sun, it's pumping water. Well, you get a battery. Yes, you can do that. You can also have a battery store. Then what you need to have in there is a float at the top that when that water comes up, it no longer pumps. Now, you can get several tanks. You can get several 2,500-gallon tanks. You got 3,000 gallons of water if you want to do that. And you got a lot of water storage. So this is one thing I wanted to ask the brother. Will our wells be contaminated that are underground from nuclear? I don't think so. I hope not. So that is the source of water. Here's another source. Now this would be contaminated from nuclear fallout. This is collecting water from the roof. But if you want to drink it, you need to filter it. They make many filters out there. Today you can go on eBay, Amazon, or anywhere. Water filters are readily available. I'd highly recommend that they're not that expensive. Get yourself a good water filter. You check it out. YouTube will tell you what is the better ones. What if this doesn't work? What are you going to do? Have you ever used one of those? That's what we always used until 2008 about. We finally installed an indoor toilet. That's what they look on the inside like. I'm going to go fast. These work too, but once they get full, are you going to get them empty? In fact, I know some people that have taken these, cut a hole in the bottom. This is what you can do. An outhouse is set over a hole. If you dig a 4-foot hole and set this over it for 2 people, you'll probably be good for 4 or 5 years. It actually creates its own breaking on down. Now, it will smell a little. You need to put in, I would recommend getting a bag of lime and spread it on there. It'll kill the smell, and the flies won't bother it. There's some that you can use in your house at night because you might not want to go outside when it's cold. Use these inside, take them out and dump them in there. How are you going to take a shower? That's what I grew up with. Of course, not in the yard like that, but I grew up with that. How about transportation? I grew up with horse and buggy. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to get a horse. Brother and sister, you have no idea. If you did not grow up working with horses, just forget about it. If you don't have the harness, you don't have the buggy, the carriage, you don't have a trained horse, don't even think about it. That's what we use. But now when you have the horse, you got to get hay. Do you have anything to cut hay with? Do you have a way to bring the hay in? How about a bicycle? I would recommend that you guys would get a bicycle over a horse. You can travel just as far with a bike as with a horse. Get one with a little rack on the front, maybe. Yes, you're going to get tired, but again, why was he saying about exercise? Yeah, get that exercise in. I'm going to go fast here. What about lights? These lights are going to go out. Did you know that? What are you going to do? It gets dark at night. You can go to bed if you want to. During the winter, you have long nights. We use the kerosene lamps. That's what I grew up with. The one on your left is what we use to go outside. That's a hurricane lantern. The wind can blow and it won't blow it out unless it gets really blustery. These are what we used in our homes. They are not as bright as these lights, but you can get by. But, again, I had a sermon where I used this to demonstrate at our church. Is your light shining? The 5 foolish virgins didn't have oil. How much good is that light going to do you if you don't have oil? None. Years ago, I remember when I could buy kerosene for about $1.50 a gallon. Now, you go to Walmart, you buy 2.5 gallon jug, it's right at $30. It's very expensive. It's very expensive. But guys, if you have a lamp like that, go get your kerosene because you will not get it when you just won't get it if you want to have lighting. And again, you got to keep that wick trimmed. You got to have a chimney, and we're going to have to stop. Our time is up.
Wow. I know I feel the same. I would love to hear more, but we have another presenter who's going to be joining us from Tennessee. So we're going to take a 2-minute bathroom break while we connect him, and we have something very special for the next presentation. And Moses, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Remember, if you have questions, we do have someone who is going to have paper and pencil for you to write it down. Just hold your hand up and he will bring one to you. So you'll be able to ask questions.